It's certainly a very exciting time for us. As you mentioned, we're the only company in the world, and that includes Chinese industry, that has the expertise from the resource all the way through to the magnet. And what I stress again and again when we think about rare earths, because it's very topical, a lot of times people talk about extraction. You hear Ukraine, Greenland, deep sea mining, or even today with the president of South Africa getting a stern dress down in the Oval Office talking about how he has rare earths too. We could have all the rare earths in the world, but if you can't refine them and turn them into magnets, you don't have a solution for the issue.
So, Jim, do you have that solution right now? Because we spoke with Joe a little earlier this year, and he reminded us that it kind of doesn't matter if you can extract it here in the US, you got to be able to refine it. And in some cases, with some of these elements, 90% of that is happening in China. What exactly can you do on the refining level here in the US?
So great question. There are two places in the world that you can refine at scale. The Chinese sphere of influence, predominantly China, a little bit Malaysia, and then in California, in Mountain Pass, California, which is our site. We actually, I think some people would be surprised by this, but we refine today more than half of the concentrate that we produce. So we are refining at scale as we speak and expanding that rapidly. So we have brought this capability back to the United States of America, and we're the second largest producer of rare earth materials in the world today.
So one thing I just want to follow, because I think you guys know this world so well, Jim and Joe, but I mean, when you say refine at scale, what exactly are you talking about? I'm just thinking people are listening like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, a simple analogy, Carol, would be think of oil and gasoline, right? You could get oil out of the ground, but you can't put it in your car until it's in the form of gasoline, right? You refine it. In this case, you basically take an ore out of the ground, you concentrate it, so it's a highly concentrated ore with a rare earth in it. But then to get the separated rare earth that you would then turn into a magnet, you refine that concentrated ore into an oxide. And then not to lose the audience, but you take that oxide, you turn it into a metal, an alloy, and then a magnet. And just last point on that I think is really critical. At Mountain Pass today, we not only mine and refine, but we now send that ore to a magnet factory that we built from scratch, a greenfield in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm actually talking to you today from our factory, and it's on a street called Independence, so we call it Independence. But we are making auto-grade magnets here at our factory in Independence in Texas with material that we mine and refine in California. And we're in the process of scaling up this facility. We have a foundational contract with General Motors. And so we will be providing General Motors with magnets at scale at the end of the year with material that is mined and refined in California.
Jim, I want to kind of get away from the nerdy science. I know you and I can talk about that
Sure.
all day, but I do want to talk about what does matter to the average person here in the U.S., which is you can't do all of this on your own. You cannot, while you might have the full supply chain, you cannot be the sole supplier of critical materials, specifically rare earths and the magnets. You've said that to me for years. One of the things you said to me years ago was, listen, the point is not overnight being the sole provider to yourself domestically. It is slowly pulling market share away from China. What are the kind of conversations you're having right now on this front, on the statecraft front? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about the MOU you signed with Ma'aden, the Saudi Arabian mining company, just last week on this front.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joe. Well, it's a great question. We've said all along our mission is to restore the full supply chain to the United States. We've obviously done that in small scale, and we're scaling that up. But we really want to be part of a broader solution to eliminate the single point of failure. As you mentioned, I was in Riyadh last week as part of the delegation of business leaders from the United States with the president. In the presence of the president and Crown Prince MBS, we signed an MOU with Ma'aden, which is the Saudi mining company, to explore the process of essentially building a vertically integrated rare earth magnetics business in Saudi Arabia. And so what that would mean is we would mine, refine, and make magnets in the kingdom. And I think from their standpoint, it's a really exciting opportunity to create a Mideast hub that could receive feedstock from there, certainly, but also Africa and some other places, and really position them well geopolitically. But more importantly, I would also say that, it really solidifies what we've been saying we are, and I think, each step of the way are showing is that we are America's national champion. We're the only company in the world that can provide a solution in-house to mine, refine, and make magnets. And so I think the vertically integrated approach that we've had is starting to be recognized by the world as, something pretty extraordinary that we've built inside MP. And so it was nice that the president and the Crown Prince recognized that. So, we'll work on that.
I mean, it's interesting. You're very much saying it's partners. We don't go it alone. It's not just the United States figuring it out. We'll work with trade partners to figure it out. I think another question I have is, you came out of the gates guns a-blazing on your earnings call recently with investors, and you pointed out, listen, it is very important that we work with the administration to figure out the solutions to basically getting a hold of these rare earths and these permanent magnets that are domestically or friend-shored produced. Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of conversations you're having with the administration or even the Defense Department?
Sure. So a really important just background context. If we go back about a month ago to Switzerland with the trade talks with China, at that point, we were, and a lot of people don't know this or maybe don't appreciate this because, they're not in necessarily the rare earth magnetics niche, but we were weeks away, in my opinion, from a shutdowns across our economy in aerospace and in auto, because the Chinese had essentially stopped shipping rare earth magnets and our supply chains were really starting to break down. And so obviously, fortunately, we came away with a deal there and we're not going to see those kinds of shutdowns, but we were really close. And that is a leverage point that the Chinese have in any negotiation. And again, whatever your view is on the relationship with China, whether it's, sort of going to be a collaborative relationship moving forward that gets reset or something much worse, we need to take this leverage point off the table. That's our view at MP. That's what our mission has been. We've been at this for years, is let's make sure that the United States of America can produce our own rare earth magnetics. And the reason, Joe, that is so important, and you mentioned DOD, is because as we've seen around the world, physical AI is the future of warfare. We're talking robotics and drones, and I think we see that from whether it's Elon Musk or Jensen Huang talking about the scale of robotics and how large that industry is going to be. It is not acceptable for American companies downstream. We're talking about trillions of dollars of enterprise value, our great leading companies, as well as our Department of Defense, to be reliant on a single point of failure in the Chinese supply chain. And so we serve a critical role in alleviating that risk.
All right. So it sounds like you're making the argument for why the U.S. government should be involved, but is the government, U.S. government, is there appetite for the U.S. government to be a partner in rare earth projects and doing it from A to Z, from mining to processing to permanent magnet production?
There is no question that the United States government recognizes this, and I think that these things take time, but there's no question that they recognize, and Joe was referencing our perspective on the earnings call, which is this is actually very doable. We are, in a very short period of time away from solving this challenge in a large scale. And frankly, MP can lead that effort. And what we said is that MP, we've been at this for a number of years. We've invested over $1 billion of private capital, and since we went public. And then prior to that, we had the good fortune, I guess, of taking control of several $1 billion of previously invested capital. So we have billions of dollars of invested capital. And what we've said is, we'll lead this solution, but it's not fair on our shareholders to expect them to take the risk. We're going to need to do this in a capital light way for MP.
Right.
It should be very rewarding for our shareholders for being in this position. So to answer your question, there will be movement forward, in my opinion. I think it's a question of getting these solutions don't happen overnight, but there's no question that there are a lot of conversations happening with government and industry, and we're leading those.
Okay, so it sounds like government's involved, they're listening, and we should maybe stay tuned for news. What kind of money is needed to be committed to do the proper build out in your view, whether it's public-private partnership? And just about 30 seconds on that.
Yeah, the really simple answer is we're talking single-digit billions. This is a really simple problem to solve, actually. I jokingly say for the coffee budget on the F-35, we probably could have solved the rare earth issue. This is really small.
Wow.
And so I do think the United States government is going to step up. I think you're going to see industry players step up as well, because this is it's an issue that affects our national security and trillions of dollars of enterprise value. And it's actually a small problem.